Welcome to Belief Busters Podcast, where we change the world one belief at a time. I'm your host, Reverend Cherie Taylor Jones, and I'm really glad that you could join us on the journey today. Today, we have an amazing pioneer and woman in the menopause movement. Her name is Clarissa Kristjansson, and she helps women going through their menopause transition to manage their symptoms, regain confidence, and a sense of freedom and energy. She says menopause is a natural transition, but menopausal symptoms can leave women feeling exhausted, anxious, and lacking in self-confidence and self-worth. She suffered a burnout during her own menopause and learned firsthand the value of a holistic mind-body approach to transforming this life transition. And as a result, she developed a unique approach to thriving through menopause. Can you imagine that, women? Thriving through menopause, based on a brain science and proven ways to bring about inner and outer change so women feel a greater sense of well-being. Welcome, Clarissa.
Thank you, Cherie. I'm so delighted to be here.
And where are you?
I'm living in Sweden at the moment.
Oh, that's lovely. So we are doing an international podcast today.
We are indeed opposite sides of the world.
Absolutely. It's amazing. I love this. I love this capability and just the connection. And I met Clarissa not that long ago, probably about a month ago, when I was a guest on her podcast, and it was just an amazing connection. So I'm so excited to have her be a guest today with us.
Oh, well, I'm so thrilled to be here to do this. Wonderful.
I'm glad, really glad. So we've got a few questions, and the first question is, so Clarissa, before shifting your beliefs about menopause, what myths did you buy into?
Well, I think the first myth I had was that, it just kind of happened when you were 50, and 1 minute, you were okay, and the other one was, it's over. And I think that I honestly don't think that I knew very much about it. That was probably the biggest thing. And probably when you say myth, I think a lot of the conversation was that there wasn't any conversation. So although, it's difficult. I mean, I know there are lots of myths because I know that from my own work with so many women. But to be honest, I think the myths were that it was hot flashes, maybe some weight gain, you had some periods, and then your period stopped and that was it. And it was a very simplistic picture of this really quite extensive journey, and that it was very focused on the physical. Right. And that the conversation never really ever addressed the emotional and spiritual dimensions of this time.
Yeah, I can understand that. From working with your clients, what do you think are some of the myths that they have bought into?
The myth that they always buy into is that this is a really difficult journey. This is going to be a living hell. That it definitely is one of the myths that they buy into. Mm-hmm. And that comes from the media. It comes from stories they hear in Facebook groups. And it also very much comes from what they've learned maybe from a mother or a sister or an aunt. So they have a very small view of it. And that also the myth is that this only happens to women who are 50, some sort of magical number.
Yes.
And of course, we know that's not true. We know that a lot of people can be perimenopausal, so in their menopause symptoms, when they're in their 30s and certainly early 40s, and that is becoming very normal. And we're not talking about women waiting till they're 50.
And so what is considered perimenopausal?
Well, that's really the time when our body is doing its changes. That is when all our hormones are, first of all, starting to fluctuate and come out of balance with each other. So we all get a very rapid decline in progesterone.
Mm-hmm.
And that then means that we've got an imbalance between estrogen and progesterone. And then estrogen is also starting to decline. And a lot of the symptoms that we experience is in this perimenopausal phase. Then we become menopausal on the day 1 year after we've had our last period. So that's menopause. Boop. And then after that, we're postmenopausal. that minute afterwards, we're postmenopausal. And a whole new fun game starts.
Yay. Well, thank you for clarifying what that difference is. And, we don't talk about perimenopausal at all. I mean, that just seems to be something that I had to search for myself to discover as I was in my late 30s, early 40s, and going a little like, what is going on with my body? So thanks for just opening that up a little bit.
Yes, definitely. And I think those then become these big myths, and it makes conversation with younger women quite complicated when we talk this. There's like this shutters come down. No, I'm not that age. Yet really their hormones are already in decline, and they should be taking lots of attention and preventative approaches so that when that becomes much more acute, as it does, our hormones are going to sink by as much as 65%, and the ovaries are going to give up their job. We don't want to be struggling then. We want to be having a good base when we're going into that time. So really teaching women and busting the myths that are out there that come from heaven only knows where, old wives' tales, I think, is mostly, and helping women then be able to meet this time so much better prepared.
Yeah, that's a mission there. I can feel it. So what got you into this work, and what did you do to transform your beliefs?
Well, you know that I had a burnout, and you mentioned that.
Yes.
I, blindly pressed on, as like so many women do. And I had a very, very busy time, and in my early 40s. I had quite a sizable career in a big multinational corporate.
Yep.
My mother became dementia. She suffered, I think she probably would have said Alzheimer's, but it was never properly diagnosed. So she became very ill. And at the same time, my husband was building a business. You know the picture.
Yes.
And we're just throwing too many balls up and down in the air. We're super busy. And then things happened. So my mother did pass away. She had a massive stroke and passed away 16 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, my husband's business didn't do very well first time around, and he and I ended up separating. So I had a tremendous amount of emotional pressure at that time. Yeah. And that can often sort of catapult us into quite a fast perimenopause. And then I'm working and I'm busy and I'm running around and I'm paying no attention to myself in all this.
Very typical of us, right?
Yeah, typical of any modern woman. And of course, but I'm just a little bit more crazy. I decided at the end of my marriage to emigrate to Australia with a 7-year-old and a dog in tow, as you do. No, you don't really. But once I was there, I didn't have any family and any connections, and I had to start on a clean slate. And that was really a lot to ask me to do mentally, emotionally, and physically. And I noticed things weren't right, but I didn't take action. I'm thinking, I don't sleep very well. Well, I'm stressed. I've got a very demanding boss, which I had. I mean, she was, woo. But, that's a whole different conversation, But, that together with, then you're not prioritizing eating as well as you could. You're eating on the run. Coffees become easier to down, to keep going. Right. A glass of wine becomes the normal to cope at the end of the day. Right. And we're not saying that anything I did was abnormal, because I did what lots of women do. Yeah. but it takes its toll when the body's going through so much change internally anyway. And eventually I had a number of health scares that made me have to really wake up and think, this can't go on. It isn't good to black out in the office in Sydney. It just isn't.
Right.
And it was very frightening when it happened because I didn't know what had happened. And then I had some problems breathing. And eventually they said, well, your blood pressure is sky high. And in case there are ladies listening to this, blood pressure problems can be very much part of your perimenopause journey. Because estrogen doesn't just make your wrinkles, stay up, plumps you up, but it keeps some of your internal organs as well strong and flexible. And one of those is your blood vessels. And I had very, very high blood pressure. And the prognosis wasn't very good. He said to me, we'll have to be on strong medication for the rest of your life. Well, I'm not on any medication now. My blood pressure is normal.
Ooh.
But that is really how much I had to take a real step back and look at my life about how I wanted it to be.
Wow. So that's the picture of here you are now in the world, and you're starting to awaken to what this reality is that's happening with your body, with your emotions, with your spirit. And how did you then shift into your viewpoint today about menopause?
That's a good question, Sheree. Well, sometimes we meet people because the universe decides that's the way it's going to be, I think. And I actually went on a training course with a very lovely lady. Her name is Heather, and had nothing to do with health or wellness or anything at all. But her energy was beautiful. And I thought, what is it about her? So you do what you do, start Googling the person and having a look. And it said that she was an open ground teacher. And I went, I don't know what that is. But it turned out that she was a mindfulness teacher. And she was teaching the same methods as John Kabat-Zinn, mindfulness-based stress reduction. And Open Ground was the community that she belonged to.
Got it.
And their headquarters was in the next suburb to where I lived.
Oh, how sweet is that?
I know. Doesn't the universe just flow in the right direction?
Yes, it
And
does.
they had a course starting the next week, and I read, I'm signing up here. Just go, girl, go to this. And it was 8 weeks of the most transformative experience for me to be in this group, to recognize that in this collective group of both mainly women, but a number of men, there were people who were feeling the same about the world as I was. We weren't feeling very well. We felt lost. And here was a group where we could openly share our stories. We could learn practices that were making us feel much better very quickly. And that set off in its own way a whole journey that I then was tipped that there was going to be a workshop at a retreat center. I went, this beautiful couple, Vijmala and Sonu, were there. I joined their teacher training program, and that was my first step to actually going on a journey, first to become a mindfulness teacher. And that was the first thing I actually trained in.
Nice.
But then recognizing in that much of the pain, and there was quite a lot of pain inside me, came from a lack of self-compassion. That was the root, that I really didn't love myself at all. And I was very hard on myself, and I was very successful. I mean, in a business context, I was a very senior manager, but there was a missing piece that didn't make me whole as a person. So I didn't know how to make changes until I learnt that piece.
Oh, that's wonderful. And what you said about us not having compassion for ourselves, it's such a common thread for women, in general, that we just keep pushing and doing, and we just forget about ourselves. And would we treat anyone else the way that we treat ourselves? So, really great awareness there. Thank you. So,
Yes.
what do you think about, what are your beliefs about menopause today?
Well, I think my first thing is that it is a journey that we can go through well. We're not saying that it isn't wonderful, it's not sunshine and roses. There are lots of issues here, and we've always got to be real that each of us has our own unique journey here that sometimes can be complicated, but we can go through it well. We can live well through it if we have some pillars in our life. So I believe that being aware of what this journey entails, genning up, having good base knowledge. I mean, ladies, we're not very in touch with our physiology and what it's all about. Our knowledge of it is not great. And so, but the information is out there in reputable sources. And for us to learn what is possibly going to happen to us, not what is going to happen to us, but what is possibly going to happen to us, that becomes the bedrock. Because from that, we can then cultivate more self-awareness. I would say today, listen to your body. Don't end up unable to walk up the hill because you can't breathe when you go to your house. Listen to when you need to rest. Eat more intuitively and take a bit of note. You know, what am I eating? How can I change this? And sometimes they're very small steps. We don't have to, you know, ditch everything we've ever liked. And all of us know in our hearts that eating lots of sugar, drinking alcohol, smoking, and never resting isn't good for us. That is not the thing, but it's how we do it that works for us. You know, the way you want to eat isn't the way I tell you to eat. Moving, you know, is something we need to do every day. But move it every day. If all we do is go for a walk and walk up and down some stairs, well, fine. You know, it's dropping the smog, I say, the should, must, ought, and got.
There you go. Love it.
Just because somebody on the internet says you've got to do this kind of exercise doesn't mean that that's right for you. But you can work within certain frameworks and parameters that do work for you. Taking a much more overview and finding time every day for a little bit of quiet and calm and peace. We all have that because, you know, we've spent 150 times we've opened our phones and spent how many minutes or hours did you spend on Facebook? Well, you could have sat quietly and meditated or written in a journal or done whatever is good for you. And what that is, I don't know, but that's up for us to find our path here. And when we do that, we're cultivating compassion and self-love. We're actually doing that for ourselves consciously.
Lovely. And what about, you know, that myth about when you hit 50, your life is over? What's your stance on that myth?
Well, I think the answer to that is an NO. You know, and truth is showing that. I mean, 36 of the CEOs in the Fortune 500 are well into their 50s today. More women than ever are living their life how they want to live it, whether they're starting businesses, starting podcasts, running community groups, climbing mountains, running marathons. There isn't really a limit to what we can do. We can do that on a smaller scale that works for us, but we are all able, and we're showing we've got so many great role models that don't have to be the big stars. They are women in our communities who are showing the way, and there is no limit. We're going to live a third or even half our life the other side of 50. Yes. So we cannot afford that mindset any longer. There should be no walking sticks here, not till at least we're 80 or 90.
Brilliant, really brilliant. So if you have viewers that are like starting this journey and in this process, do you have any steps or suggestions for them?
I would say on a practical level, track your symptoms. Start coming into relationship with your body. Start, saying, what's going on with me? What's happening here? What's going on? Am I feeling like this, like that? Could be emotions, could be some physical symptom, but checking in, tracking, measuring, knowing about your body, listening to it. And not just what you're experiencing, but the context in which you're experiencing this. I mean, do you feel more tired at certain times of the week? Are you feeling more anxious around certain people or situations? And then look at that, because those are the things that we might be able to do something about. Put ourselves back in the driving seat. Get to know what we eat, what we drink. I get my poor clients have to fill in all sorts of different diaries about themselves, because it's unpicking that self-awareness. That's the platform from being able to change. Find some Facebook groups maybe that are inspiring. Lots of them are not inspiring and uplifting, but there are a few where you're building a community and we don't feel alone and struggling with this. So we can listen and we can hear others and we can feel, somebody else has this. I'm okay. This is common. Normal isn't a word I use, but common. I'm not alone in this journey. And reach out, ask a question, ask for help, because otherwise we turn inwards on ourselves. We start to berate ourselves. We can be very hard on ourselves. But if we know that this is a shared experience, and one of the components of compassion is common humanity, that you and I and all of us are in these things together, it makes this much easier to go through. And then find something that uplifts. Read a book. Do something that you enjoy every single day. Find a time in the day when you do something that you just love. And it's nobody else's business what it is. Put on music and dance around your living room. Sing. Maybe you like to craft or draw, but something that gives you joy, so you laugh through this process as well.
Amen. Yeah. Great tips. Thank you. One of the things that came into my awareness as you were speaking is shifting the focus from what is wrong with me to who I am. Who am I? And loving all bits of who I am without the label of something's bad or not good or wrong.
I agree with that. I mean, I would say get close to your own personal values. What do you think is important for you? What do you want from life? And, know that all of you is beautiful. We're all beautiful, and that beauty isn't anything to do with, how perfect you are on the outside. It's all about the inside. And I think when we cultivate that and we have confidence, and as we're older women, we can have more confidence about who we are and our place in the world. We've been through so much, and we're so strong that can shine through as an inner beauty that just comes out.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I really appreciate it. So do you want to tell us anything more about yourself, and how can people reach you, and if they'd like to work with you?
Oh, thank you so much, Cherie. Well, you can reach me at clarissakristianson.com. That's my website. And there you can learn a little bit more about my Thriving Through Menopause program, which is, 4 months of us working together, if that's what you like. I also have quite a bit of activity on LinkedIn, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram, where you can read a little bit more about different topics and subjects that I do by myself or with other people, so that my whole mission is that we're going to raise the bar on the conversation, that we know more, and I hope that that's what I'm doing. And obviously you can also listen to my podcast where Cherie was a guest, and that's called the Menopause Project. So, connect with me. I'd love to hear from you, find time to talk to you, and really share where you are on your journey, and whether there is a way that I can help you. Even if it might not be myself, I also have a big network of other wonderful women who are working in spaces that are adjacent to mine, because it's all of us helping all of you for this life to be better.
Yes, indeed. It has been a joy, a pleasure, an honor to have you on this podcast. And I'm seeing collaboration in our future. So I'm super excited.
Oh, thank you so much for allowing me to come on and share a little snippet about this journey and how we can thrive at this time of life.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of belief systems. I hope this gives you permission to change your beliefs and subsequently the world. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast and leave a review wherever you listen. You can reach me at preachitsister.com, where you'll find more resources on this subject. You can book me for a private coaching session to assess your own beliefs. You could even become a guest on this podcast. Or, if you want more info on my book, Turning Your Why into Why Not, you can find it there as well. See you on the flip side.